call this meeting to order on July 23rd, 2019. Welcome, everyone. And we're going to get started with roll call, please.
Commissioner Abraham?
Present.
Commissioner McElroy?
Present.
Commissioner Watkins?
Present.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Harless?
Present. And tonight, actually, we have a special guest here to do our invocation. Hassan Ali, if you want to come on up from the Islamic Center of Paducah. We're going to start something new. Actually, Commissioner McElroy and I talked about this months ago. And we're going to ask guests to come do invocations for us over the next couple of, I hope, months. Next up, we're actually going to have Laurie Ballou from the Temple Israel here at the next meeting. And we'll keep cycling through. So if you are a spiritual leader in the community and you want to come and give the invocation for us, please reach out to us, and we'll do that. Thanks for being our first guest.
Well, thank you. Appreciate
you. And if we'll all stand together, if that's okay, and you'll lead us in the invocation.
Sure. As the mayor mentioned, my name is Hassan Ali. I represent the Islamic Center of Paducah, Kentucky here down at Burger Road. I will be reading chapter 1 from the Holy Quran. And I picked the chapter because it's extremely similar to the Lord's Prayer in the Bible. So once I'm done reading the Arabic scripture, I will translate it in English for everybody to follow along. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. All praises is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful, sovereign of the day of judgment. It is you we worship, and we ask you for your help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favors, and not those who have evoked your anger, or those who are astray. Amen. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to be here. Thank you so much for all. Please sit down.
Appreciate you. You may actually stay standing, and we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance next, if you want to stay up here, Hassan. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. You may be seated. All right, City Manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. All right, we have a few presentations, really special presentations actually tonight to get us started. First up, we have Bill Evans from Paxton Media Group to talk about the Veterans Day celebration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here to address you. The American Hero Veterans Day celebration came about after discussions with the mayor and others in the community about wanting to capture again that sense of pride that Paducah, McCracken County, Western Kentucky had when the Wall That Heals came to Paducah. And WPSD and the Paducah Sun, along with Milner Knorr, were proud to sponsor that and bring that here. And with the Veterans Day parade that we have in this community, we wanted to do more than just a 30-minute half morning event. So we started getting together, a few of us. Am I in control of this, Gizmo? Mm-hmm. Okay. There we go. So here are some of the planning discussions. These are some of the groups that took part. We were at the invitation of the mayor, the 101st Airborne Sustainable Brigade came down. Also, the Disabled American Veterans, the Vietnam Veterans Association, Daughters of the American Revolution, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. All of us have had meetings, sometimes just one meeting a part of, but these are the groups that have started some of the discussions about planning to evolve the Veterans Day parade into a Veterans Day celebration. Some of our goals, and again, thanks to Madam Mayor for her glorious note-taking. Recognize and honor veterans from all age groups and experiences. Growing up, my grandfather was a World War II veteran. My father served in the Marine Corps in the time before Vietnam. His younger brother served in the Marine Corps during Vietnam. And my nephew, my brother's oldest, served in both Afghanistan and Iraq. As a Marine. So I have a fondness for Marines. My butt has been whipped by more Marines than anyone else. But anyway, my point is about age groups and experiences. We kind of focus on the World War II vets that are as they die off. We certainly have a love, and we had a joyous celebration for the Vietnam vets. But every day there are young men and women, 20, 22, 23, 24, that are veterans that are coming home that need to be recognized, that need to be served. So we want to recognize and honor veterans from all age groups and experiences. We also want to facilitate conversation between veterans and the community. You guys can read these. Create a welcoming environment, celebrate and tell stories. We want to create a family-friendly experience, provide a meaningful event for schools. It is my understanding, Mark Thompson with the City Parks Department and I are meeting with the two school superintendents on Friday morning to discuss how we bring the school curriculums into this event. It's my understanding that they're required to teach or have an event regarding veterans and Veterans Day, and then provide a resource of information for veterans. So many times what I've heard in our meeting with some of the veterans in our last meeting that we had here at City Hall, there are many times where Veteran A may be speaking to Veteran B and learn something new. And we want to be able to bring information kiosk or information booths so that veterans may have on that day, if they choose to, kind of a one-stop shop for new information. So here's the vision, certainly subject to change, and I put an asterisk there. This is in addition to the Veterans Day Parade. Trying to visualize starting our day off with a sunrise service, possibly on the Ohio River. We've talked about inviting the Coast Guard to provide to get our day started with reverie and reveille and the raising of our colors. And then from there, going into a breakfast for veterans and their families. We would then look at the parade. Currently, we're trying. This schedule will be fit around the parade schedule. Honoring an award ceremony. So many times we do before the parade. In the past, there's been a small ceremony at Dolly McNutt that is in November. Is normally cold, chilly, sometimes rainy. So we thought about bringing this indoors to the Expo Center, and those folks were part of the discussions, and they're certainly on board to open up the Expo and Convention Center for this. You can read, well, if I made it bigger, you could have read it. Middle and high school program, possibly in the afternoon. That may actually move up into the morning as well. And then the last thing is we're the 101st Airborne Sustainable Brigade. We're 90-ish% certain that the Army Band will come to Paducah on Veterans Day to perform. They perform all types of music, whether or not it's a patriotic concert, maybe it's a patriotic concert and dance. We've talked about also inviting some local bands to kind of warm up for the Army Band. So that's kind of the day in a nutshell. These were some of the other interactive ideas. A lot of these come from our time with the Wall That Heals, a thank you card station so that school-age children can write notes to veterans. Certainly getting the school choirs involved. We're at the Paducah Sun. We've already begun speaking of there's a Veteran of the Year. I'm trying to remember what
Distinguished Veteran.
Distinguished Veteran. Thank you, Mayor. And looking at those that are nominated, writing articles about all of them, and then naming the distinguished veteran. Perry Box, our news director at WPSD, has also talked about bringing the full weight of his news department behind this event and telling the stories of the veterans, similar to what we did with the Wall That Heals. We've talked about providing flags to attendees, either developing a wall of names. This was a big success at the Wall That Heals, where veterans veterans' loved ones could go and sign the name of their veteran or make a note about their service, whether or not it's on a wall or whether or not it's, I think, Mayor, help me out, who was it that from the Vietnam veterans that you did the recent interview with that has the notebook?
Ron Waters.
Yes, Ron. Thank you. Ron has had at that event put out a notebook and gathered experiences from vets. We talked about again I think this idea may have come from Perry, but we talked about a StoryCorps style booth so that veterans could go into a private area and just talk to a camera and tell their stories that we could then document and have for our archive purposes. Make that available possibly to the library in the archives. And then there's also talks about bringing the Quilts of Valor to Paducah for this event as well. 5 slides, man. There's so much more. The big thing is everything is still kind of up in the air. We need volunteers. We need sponsors, because this isn't cheap. But this again is to expand and make it a full day from sunrise till about 8:30 because we all have to work on Tuesday, right? So we're not going to go and party into the night, but get a sense of maybe 5 to 8 with a concert with the Army Band. So that's what we want to do. We'd like your support. Do I have your support? Do we need a vote?
You have mine. You have mine.
Do we have your support? You guys up all behind this?
That's right.
Okay. Sounds to me like it's a done deal, folks.
Let's start planning.
Let's start planning. So if you do have any thoughts on this or want to be involved, City Hall, contact City Hall, Mayor. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm either between the Paducah Sun or the television station, so catch me if you can on Kentucky Avenue. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Appreciate you.
Thank
And
you,
thank you guys so much for your partnership. It means a lot. We're going to have a great event this year. All right, next up we have Kyle Pote, who is the Chief District Engineer for Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. And he's going to talk about the recent Paducah Small Urban Area Study that we underwent. And I think we actually received it last time. Did we receive that yet officially?
I believe we have,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you for having me here tonight. Rick and I were just talking in the back, and we recognize that we're engineers and we can become very nerdy with data. So I will try to make this concise and entertaining. So as was mentioned, the Transportation Cabinet helped facilitate a small urban area study for the city and some outlying areas of McCracken County. It actually encompassed about 91 square miles. The last transportation study that was conducted for this area was back in 2002, so we felt like it was something in conjunction with the city and the county folks that was long overdue and helping trying to identify transportation projects and areas of need that could be studied and or enacted to help improve many of the facets of transportation in this area. I kind of I'll read down some of the basic elements here of the study. The basic elements include inventory and evaluation of existing conditions, crash history, and geometric deficiencies to identify possible safety improvement areas, evaluate existing traffic and forecast future traffic volumes on state-maintained as well as other routes within the study area to evaluate capacity needs and what could be done to improve, work as a committee of local stakeholders and public officials to identify problem areas and improvement concepts, and to provide a list of short-term recommendations which we as the cabinet or the city or even McCracken County could help utilize to implement during further and future developments, as well as address long-term concerns that actually go into what we call a 6-year plan, which I'll touch on that just in a second. So the committee held its first meeting a little over a year ago in June of 2018, where we came together and started to identify locations that met some of these criteria that I spoke of above. Actually, 23 spots were identified that were congestion issues, 36 trouble spots related to safety were identified, 16 areas where we felt like significant growth was being seen and could use improvement, as well as 17 overall locations for possible transportation or multimodal improvements. And out of all that, we tried to condense it down to about 25 that you're seeing here on this particular map. Those were then broken down into short-term, long-term, high priority, medium priority, and low priority. And the final report was actually given to us around the end of May. However, us being the cabinet, and since we were the facilitator of this, we kind of had the knowledge a little sooner. And so, as I mentioned a while ago, we're currently in the process of putting together our next 6-year plan as the cabinet statewide. So one of the processes that began in 2016, which is what we now as the cabinet call the SHIFT program. We love acronyms. So the SHIFT program stands for Strategic Highway Investment for Tomorrow. I believe that's what it stands for. So the purpose of it is to identify projects from a transportation standpoint that fit in the box of a couple different criteria. Economic benefit, accident improvement, economic development, benefit cost ratio. There's about 5 different criteria. And then those are all wrapped up statewide, given a score based on a regional basis. So we're in District 1. We cover the 12 most western counties. We're grouped with Districts 2 and 3. So District 2 covers Madisonville, Hopkinsville, Christian County. District 3 encompasses all the way over into Bowling Green. So we're grouped into that category. It keeps us out of the category of Lexington, Louisville, Cincinnati, so it lets us get our fair share. So anyhow, we took some of these projects, since we were already privy to the final report, and started to incorporate those into our SHIFT process as we went around and met with the mayor and other local officials across our 12 counties. But in particular, we took some of these projects for this particular planning study and went ahead and had them scored through the SHIFT process. And what you'll find, so these are some of the recommendations that came out of this small urban area study. And we took some of those, as I said, and ran them through the SHIFT process. And several of them actually scored significantly high, which was a good thing. And so we actually meet next week with the Purchase Area Development District, and we start to vote on projects that we as the district, as well as the Area Development District, who kind of acts as the overseer and the vote for the city and county officials. We will vote to assign points to some of these projects to boost them up in the rankings. You want to try to reach a score of 70 or higher, and that pretty much ensures that you're going to make the 6-year plan, which is what the legislators will vote on in the spring, and start to obligate transportation funds towards, which is how we build projects. So out of some of these projects, I'll just try to touch on a few real quick that may be of interest to you. Kentucky Avenue from 25th Street to 4th Street was identified as a high priority and what we call a road diet. So in those terms, it's where we try to take an existing 4-lane corridor that's tight, narrow lanes and reduce it to a 3-lane corridor with a center 2-way left turn up the middle, much as what we did on Bridge Street a couple years back on the state portion of Bridge Street. So we actually have several of those that were identified in this particular study that warrant a road diet, so to speak, which we find improves the crash history, minimizes the crash points, the potential conflicts that you have from a crash standpoint, and can generally improve the flow dynamics as well as the comfort feel of it. So again, we've identified several of those, like I say, Kentucky Avenue, Joe Clifton Drive, in front of Carson Park, really all the way from Jackson Street to Park Avenue in front of Nova Park. That's actually a project that we have in a letting later this week. So we are actually going to start construction on that probably next month, and we should be completed by December on that one. So there's how fast we tried to put some of these forward. Another big one that you're going to see on this list, I know it's kind of small to read, is North Friendship Road, 1286. I don't know if anybody has seen it in the paper, but we actually have a public meeting this coming Monday night where we're going to start revealing alternatives to improve the flow dynamics of North Friendship Road from Lone Oak Road all the way over to US 60. That was one of the things that came out of this study. It was one that we'd already had brewing in our minds, but then this study kind of helped facilitate the need for it, as well as it got scored through the SHIFT process, scored pretty high. So again, we have a public meeting this coming May night. I encourage you to come if you have a desire to express your voice and concerns with that particular corridor. Lone Oak Road is another another one that we identified really from the outskirts of Lone Oak all the way into the interstate Whitehaven area. That's actually one that's going to foster an additional planning study. Let's see here. I'm trying to go down the list of some that may be of interest to you. So I mentioned Joe Clifton Drive. Another couple road diet sections that we will entertain probably next year as we do normal resurfacing would be Kentucky Avenue, possibly, Jackson Street from Red's Donuts back towards at least Old Mayfield Road. We may stretch it further. Those are some that are low cost improvements, like I say, that we can enact as we resurface these roadways. HC Mathis Drive, that's another one that we may consider. A couple of the bigger projects that were also called out in this small urban area study that were evaluated through the SHIFT process included Caro Road from particularly Olivet Church over to Charter Oaks Drive, which happens to be the area where we have our detour right now for our Exit 4 project. So that was identified as needing some major improvement. We see a lot of growth out there. Anyhow, like I said, I could bore you with a lot of details, but I'm not here to do that tonight. Again, so the main conclusion of this is these are avenues for us to come together as a cabinet as well as city and county officials to develop areas that we feel need further study, to try to come up with some estimated cost for them, and then to rank them in a priority range. And then it allows us as the cabinet to maybe start picking off some of these as we go through the course of our normal business of programming, as well as it gives areas for the county and the city, because not all of these are on state routes, to identify as they progress forward with particular transportation projects as well. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Kyle?
I do. Thank you, Kyle.
Yes.
Appreciate the presentation, the good news on a lot of roads that really needs some attention, and what you're already doing on 60 at 24 interchange, and that's going to be really nice when it's finished. And certainly North Friendship Road is a terrible stretch of highway, so many accidents through there. But on these others, I was curious, like Jackson and Kentucky Avenue and Joe Clifton Drive that you mentioned, is that the plan to move them to a three lanes?
Yes. So the Joe Clifton Drive project, like I say, that will actually be let to construction this Friday. You may have already seen Paducah Water out there doing some preliminary work. So the intent of that project will be to go from there at AutoZone at Jackson Street all the way over to Noble Park. To Park Avenue. We will convert that 4-lane section into a 3-lane corridor. It'll have bike paths on each side.
Cool.
So the roadway width, as you know it, won't change. It's just that you'll now have a center 2-way left turn up the middle, a through lane on each side, and then on the outer edges of that against the curb and gutter, you'll have a designated bike lane on both sides. So it doesn't change the footprint of the road. It just changes the 4 tight lanes as you currently know it.
Yeah, it's too tight right
Yes.
now, and Jackson Street's terrible, and on Kentucky Avenue is just you can't put 4 vehicles side by side on that. So that's a good idea. What I was curious about is on Lone Oak Road, have you decided at this point what you'll do there? That's the busiest road in McCracken County, I think.
Yeah, so as we went through this process, I actually was the one that identified Lone Oak Road maybe to throw into the study. It kind of got thrown in about midpoint, so about December is when we threw Lone Oak Road in here. And as we continue to look at it, that's what prompted us to realize that it needs its own further study in itself that will start actually this fall with some additional planning funds. My first concept would be, which is what you see noted on here, would be to introduce some type of a reversible lane configuration. So the best way I can sum that up would be is if anybody has been to Lexington and if you've driven on Nicholasville Road, particularly in front of the UK campus, you have a corridor there which is actually larger than Lone Oak Road, but I'll use Lone Oak Road's footprint. So Lone Oak Road, you have 5 lanes, 2 on each side, and a center 2-way left turn lane up all the way up the middle. So what we would do would be to implement directional flow based on morning or evening volumes. So of a morning, for example, as the traffic would be headed north from, the Lone Oak, Graves County area into Paducah, you would actually convert as many as 3 lanes headed into town and only 2 lanes leaving town. utilizing that center two-way left turn as a through lane, possibly even shifting the two-way left turn lane all the way over into one of the two out lanes and only having one lane going out, and then vice versa in the evening as the traffic exits Paducah, heads back towards the Lone Oak Paducah area. You would shift those lanes around to designate as many as 3 to 4 out of town and only one coming into town. During the off-peak hours, it would resume its normal configuration. So a lot of it is controlled merely by signals as well as lane designation lights that would be located at each intersection to remind the traffic of what lane is the usable lane at the moment. Like say, Nicholasville Road in Lexington has had this configuration for roughly 25 years, and it was really the only way they could come up with to combat the congestion problem given the confines of right-of-way limitations, businesses located against the edge of the right-of-way, which is similar to what we have in Lone Oak.
Yeah. A great idea, that much needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Very good.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions for Kyle? Statements? I just want to say a big thank you. Seriously.
You're welcome. Thank you.
When we asked for this to be done, the cabinet didn't take, I don't know, a month to say yes and to jump in. And I don't think you were the chief engineer
I was not
yet,
chief at the
so-
time, no, but I inherited it.
Yeah, that's
so.
right. It's a good
Yeah.
plan, though. So
Yes,
now you got
it
some
is.
good guidance.
Yeah,
So
we do.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Really
Thank
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take a second. I also want to thank you on Highway 60, all the work that's going on. I know it's disruption for some of the businesses. I want to encourage everybody to support those businesses out there, but it really is flowing very smoothly, and I've heard very few complaints or issues or anything about it. So keep up the good work and
Yeah.
get it done quickly.
I would echo the same. The mayor and I actually were talking before we came in here. Surprisingly, it has gone very well or at least from my perspective, from a public perception standpoint. I realize that that's one of the busiest areas we have, and for us to undertake the project that we have, including shutting down the ramps as we have over the last couple of weeks and pushing everybody to exit 3, it's gone remarkably well so far. And
Yeah.
everybody needs to knock on wood. So we're optimistic that we're going to be done significantly ahead of schedule. The completion date of this project was November 15th. I think everybody's going to be very pleased and surprised when we wrap up in the very near future, actually. So
Thank you.
Hey, Kyle, concerning that project, do you have do you still have plans to shut down the through traffic there underneath the interstate?
No, we have worked with our contractor, Jim Smith, who has done a great job as well. And we feel like we have a good plan in place that now is not going to require us to shut down 60 other than perhaps some shutdowns during the overnight hours. So we've honed in on like 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., which would not impact much traffic at all at those times. But otherwise, keeping the flow of 60 open underneath the interstate during normal hours.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. All these people came to see you, just so you
Yeah.
know. So let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on into the business portion of our meeting. One reminder, if you are here to make a public comment, there are forms over here that you can fill out and you bring up to this box so that when we're ready at the end of the meeting, I'll have your form. All right, we're going to move into the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests. Is there anything anyone would like to remove tonight? No? All right, with that, I'm going to ask the city clerk to read the items recommended for approval, please.
Approve minutes for June 25th and July 9th, 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting. Receive and file documents. Appointment of John Park to the Civic Beautification Board to replace Rita McKeel, who resigned. This term shall expire July 1st, 2023. Appointment of Benjamin Cirque to the Board of Assessment Appeals to replace Debbie Gentry, whose term has expired. This term shall be retroactive to January 1st, 2019, and shall expire December 31st, 2021. Personnel actions. A municipal order approving change order number 2 and change order number 3 to the agreement for demolition services with Danny Cope and Sons Excavating LLC related to the Kresge Building located at 316, 318, and 320 Broadway in an amount of $2,770 and authorizing future expenditures related to said agreement in an amount not to exceed $2,230, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. A municipal order authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract with Paxton Park Golf Board in an amount of $72,000 for specific services, and authorizing the finance director to transfer funds to said board. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute an Artworks program grant application through the National Endowment for the Arts, NEA, for funds in the amount of $27,000 for the development and implementation of a creative entrepreneurship program, and authorizing the grants administrator to submit the grant application. A municipal order authorizing the purchase of dumpsters, lids, and replacement parts in an amount not to exceed $130,000 for fiscal year 2020 for utilization by commercial businesses within the City of Paducah. A municipal order authorizing the purchase of rollout containers, lids, and additional replacement parts from Toter Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $90,000 for the Engineering Public Works Solid Waste Division.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner McElroy?
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Harless?
Aye. And Commissioner Wilson.
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending sections 18-61, 18-62, and 18-63 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah. This ordinance is summarized as follows. In order to raise revenues, alleviate confusion, and ensure fees are equitable in McCracken County, the City of Paducah has determined that an increase of building and/or electrical permit fees to be equivalent with McCracken County, Kentucky is appropriate. This ordinance amends building permit minimum fees from $20 to $150 for new construction projects not exceeding $35,000. The table of fees is adjusted $2 per $1,000 project value. Renovation, repair, and miscellaneous work permit minimum fees are amended from $20 to $60, and a new table of fees is created. Electrical permit minimum fees are amended from $20 to $100 for work not exceeding $23,000. The demolition fee for commercial property is amended from $50 to $100. Repeat inspection fee is amended from $15 to $25 per trip. The plan review section is repealed in its entirety. The occupancy inspection minimum fee is amended to a new flat fee of $100. Rate and fee changes will take effect on September 1, 2019. The full text of each section that imposes fees shall be published in accordance with KRS 83A.060.
Second.
Any comments, discussion tonight? No? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner McElroy?
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Harless?
Aye. And Commissioner Watkins.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance repealing Chapter 78, Section 78-5, Grievance Procedures of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. This ordinance is summarized as follows. City manager implemented administrative policy HR 43, employee concerns, to establish and define the process through which workplace concerns not governed under a collective bargaining agreement or departmental workplace policies may be addressed and resolved for all employees of the city. This ordinance is being enacted to repeal Code Section 78-5 in its entirety, and employees shall be directed to follow the process outlined in the employee concerns policy.
Second.
Michelle?
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Honorable Commissioners. We're here tonight to talk about the Personnel Section 5 grievances that is being removed, and this is due to the implementation of a new policy that lays out the employee concern process if an employee should have a concern that's not addressed through a collective bargaining agreement or another departmental process.
Can you talk through a little bit about kind of if I guess you're going to adopt a policy internally and not make it an ordinance? Is that where you're moving forward, or are we adopting a new ordinance to do that? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, just an administrative policy, not an ordinance. But basically, this action repeals the ordinance. It doesn't conflict with the policy, or the policy doesn't conflict with the ordinance. And it's based upon the direction from the Board of Commissioners to the staff. It actually makes it a little bit more robust and more beneficial for the employee if they do have concerns to be able to work it up through the entire chain of command, the city manager's office, into the Board of Commissioners.
Great. And then how will this be disseminated, the policy throughout the?
It already has been.
It has been.
Yep.
Okay.
It became effective mid-July, and so we put it through the proper channels and have passed out the employee signature pages.
Great. Any questions, comments about this? No? Okay. All right, thank you so much, Michelle. You can stay up there if you want to, because you're next up. All right, next up, we're going to hear about the strategic plan update from the Assistant City Manager.
Give me 1 second. Just loaded.
Can we do the drum roll now?
I know, right? So, we are thrilled you all are here because you actually get to be a part of something really special.
They're also here for you.
What?
They're also here for you.
Yeah, that's right. So this is the launch of the reimagining of our strategic plan. It's something that's been going on in the background a lot, but you're going to start hearing a lot more about it. So I'm going to turn it over to the video because it actually explains it better than I ever could.
This is our vision. This is our Paducah. Our strategic plan is more than just a vision for Paducah's future. It is a way for you to hold your city accountable.
To make that job as simple as possible, we broke down the plan into 4 key visions.
Our growth, our community, our engagement, our culture.
Our objectives of those key visions are the stepping stones for growing our community.
A community that's connected, safe, and unified by our diversity.
A community that charts its own course.
A community that prides itself on the successes of one another.
A community where you can get involved.
This is our vision. This is our Paducah.
To find out more, visit OurPaducah.us or follow us on Facebook at City of Paducah, Kentucky Government for official updates.
Yay!
So this is the official launch of the strategic plan, kind of reimagining, known as OurPaducah. The video will be posted later this evening. We have a website that is live that has all kinds of information. Another thing, too, that we'd invite you all out to is Thursday. We have OurPaducah 101 at the McCracken County Library, part of their series. So we'll see a really high-level overview of it tonight and some of the work that's been going on, but that's a great deep dive into what's actually happening. So we invite you all to come out, and we hope you can attend. Okay? So with that, this is our OurPaducah engagement strategy. I'm going to talk a little bit about this as well as the mid-year report that came out a couple of weeks ago and some of the great work that the departments are doing. So first of all, with the OurPaducah engagement strategy, we really want to make it approachable. I saw something really great when I was doing some research that said a strategic plan is not an exclusive club. It's not meant for just the commissioners and the city manager's office. We need the entire community, our organization, other partners helping us get it done. So I love that. OurPaducah, we've tried to break it down, and I'll get into this a little bit more, so that it's more manageable. We have 4 key vision areas, and it's aligned to what's important to the community based on what we've heard from the listening sessions that the mayor and the commissioners attended. So with that, we have an OurPaducah website that has all of our objectives listed out. It has ways to get involved. It has who to contact. We have the beautiful launch video. We have beautiful strategic plan books that are at everybody's station. They also will be placed around the community with posters, and the books will be in the library, and we're working out some other places. So if you'd like to go see them, they'll be out across the community. We also have some reference cards. There's some at your stations. They'll also be placed around the community, and our employees will have them. We have 300 plus people that could be great ambassadors for what's happening in the strategic plan. So instead of having to know all of the 70 plus objectives, they can hand out the card and you can go online, or you know who to call. The other thing that's going to be happening with the Innovations Branding House Assistance is you have the Customer Experience Department brochures. They'll be helping with, ongoing marketing and engagement around specific objectives. So they did all of the Customer Experience Department, the New Day Initiative, all of that branding. So we're going to continue to engage with them and push information out to the community. So with that, this is a little bit hard to see, but it is in your strategic plan booklet on page 4 and 5. But this talks about how to break it down. So we have our 4 key vision areas. They are our growth, our community, our engagement, and our culture. And within those 4 key visions, we have different performance areas, and those are what we're more used to seeing with the upward economic mobility or the infrastructure or public safety. So that's where those are located. And then within all of those, we broke it down into about 70 objectives. So really the intent behind that is to make it more approachable and think about it in those different buckets. And you'll see that as we push information out on social media, or everything is going to be grouped around those buckets. So in the monthly report that went out, you'll see there was a scorecard around those different buckets. It's kind of been reorganized so it all aligns under there. So now a great look at what's actually happening with the strategic plan. So we have objectives, and they're given a status indicator. And the monthly reporting will stay the same with the WIN initiatives. We have 15 initiatives that are called What's Important Now, and these are what the Board of Commissioners selected at their retreat to be the most important initiatives. So we report on those frequently and talk about them as an organization. And then twice a year, so in July we just did one, and in January we'll actually give you the larger scorecard so you can see what's going on. Sound good? Okay. So this is a look at our growth. This has empower upward economic mobility and maintain thoughtful and modern infrastructure. And there are 20 objectives in this key vision. Within those 20, we have 10 objectives that are on track. We have 8 objectives with modest progress and 2 that are underperforming. This is in no way a look at everything that's happening. These are just the things we wanted to highlight. So a couple of things. We did give $100,000 in downtown business grants to 5 programs that generated over $540,000 of private investment. So one of our objectives is to fill downtown buildings and not have vacancies. So these are things that we're doing to contribute towards that. We also are very excited to be hiring a new business development specialist, and that position is directly related to growing local businesses and retaining local businesses. So that's a brand new position that came out of an objective within our growth. We also recently submitted the Build Grant, which is a great, very exciting project for the community. A couple of other exciting things on infrastructure is we got our first pavement condition index rating. We got the FAIR, I think it was pretty positive. So that's a great example too of where we're trying to move towards more measurable objectives. And city manager's favorite, we have City Hall Wi-Fi available. Within the modest progress, we are looking at a downtown streetscape update, and then also a number of the economic development items that are in the yellow are moving to the business development specialists, so we're hoping to see more progress in those where they're assigned to different people. The other are paused just due to other priorities, but still part of the discussion, and we're evaluating those. Our community is probably the biggest bucket, and what's probably important to this group, we have sustainable neighborhoods, recreation, and public safety. This is a big bucket with 30 objectives. A couple of great things are that we completed the Fountain Avenue Sidewalks program. We also, Midtown Alliance is beginning to build new houses, and this was due to a grant that they received because the city gave them funding. So that's something really important that's linked to some affordable housing options in our community. We also have a new objective, and this is something new that the city manager and I put in there, and it was based on the goals that you gave us, and that is specific to intensifying the park maintenance and cleanliness efforts. So we've added that, and we'll report on that regularly. We also have ongoing conversations with the city and county, with a joint consolidated agency. So this is exciting. Let's see here. We have 2 objectives in the strategic plan that are complete, and one is in this section. This is objective P7, and it's about a youth-oriented community policing program. So this is a new one that the police implemented at the middle school. We actually have an officer there every Tuesday working with the students and helping teachers. So it's completed, but what we're working with them on now is a measure that we can measure the impact of that. So it'll still be on there, but they did achieve this objective.
Congratulations. Let's give them a round of applause for that. Okay, so we have our engagement, and it's open, smart, and engaged government. We have 5 objectives. This is a smaller bucket, but it's probably one where we've put the most emphasis around creating a customer-centric culture in City Hall. So I don't know if any of you are part of it, but we had a New Day initiative launch. We have the city clerk and customer experience director, Lindsay Parrish, leading that. And we also implemented some blue cards where we can rate how we're doing on our customer service. Something else that's very exciting is the city manager brought a 5-year capital improvement plan, and you'll be able to see how we're progressing on our projects. One other thing that we did fund in this upcoming budget is a community awards program celebrating the fulfillment of our vision. So you'll see that coming forward as a proposal of how we can launch that off in this fiscal year.
The citywide branding campaign paused now, but now that we have the new GPD president CEO, we'll re-engage in that process. And finally, we have art culture. This has creative industries and celebrate a diverse community. There are 14 objectives in this key vision. Some of the highlights are the Creative Impact Symposium that was held. And we've also been charged with creating a new diversity event. So the Parks and Rec Department has been researching different options on what they're proposing as a kite festival that will be kicked off in conjunction with Quilt Week, possibly in April or May. And this one is exciting too because we have 0 objectives underperforming, so I thought that deserved a woohoo. Thank you. And we have another complete objective. This has to do with the local Creative Mornings chapter. And we've researched it, and really Sprocket's startup stories match that format. So we've put that one as complete for now. As you can see, there's a lot of great work. For next steps, we're going to continue the community engagement activities with those kind of quarterly campaigns, monthly campaigns. There's a continued emphasis on the WIN initiatives and trying to make the results more measurable, because in an ideal world, that green, red, yellow indicator would be based on something that's measured, not just the progress of how they're moving through that objective. So with that, I'd take any questions, but I also wanted to compliment all of the staff on their hard work. We have a lot of great work happening at the department level. Our office, this takes a lot to put it together. I know our PIO, Pam Spencer, did a lot of work helping push things out and make this a big deal. And we have an intern, Harrison Fry, this year, and he did a lot of collections. So wish me luck in January when he's gone and collecting all of this. But we have a lot of really, really great work happening related to your priorities.
Awesome. Good. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Great. Before you take off, does anyone have any questions for Michelle or the team? Looks great. A great job. Beautiful. Thank you. I'm looking forward to digging in. But we can't take comment from the audience, sorry, without filling out a comment card. Sorry. I wish it was that engaging, but we're not at this. We're very formal here. Sorry about that. Go on Thursday to the library at 7 p.m. and you can ask Michelle and Jim any question you'd like to. That's right. All right. Next up, we have comments from the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And one of those objectives that was touched upon on the screen tonight is the indoor aquatic facility, and we are making some great progress on that. The request for qualification proposals came in. We did get received 7, which was fantastic. We're all working through that now, and then tomorrow we'll cut the 7 to 3. And then we'll bring in the 3 finalist firms in for interviews on the 31st and bring a proposal back to the board for consideration. So we're moving fast. It's going well. I was very pleased with all the proposals that I've read through, and I'm looking forward to making a tough decision and hopefully bring back a great recommendation for this board. So I'm very excited about it.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Is
that all you have? I have to tell everyone a story about Jim. When we interviewed Jim last summer, he told us this story. I probably told this before here, but I'm going to tell it again. He tells us this story that he used to have a turtle. Right? Is that the story?
Turtle, yes.
A turtle on his desk because it was reminding him that his commission at the time wanted him to slow down. And we told Jim if he got hired in Paducah that we did not want him to bring his turtle. Or if he did, I think Commissioner Holland said we will hit it with a hammer. And that has been the case. You are not a turtle. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
For not being the turtle. It's great. Really appreciate that. All right. Anyone have any comments tonight they want to make? If not, I have a few. All right. Well, I wanted to, first of all, update everyone. We have gone back to our original August and September meeting schedule. Everyone, I think we sent out an email trying to shift them because of travel plans, but it just isn't going to work. So we are going to be on normal schedule for August and September for everyone that made their plans for that.
So September will be a problem on the 10th because I know 3 of us are going to be out of town.
So that one we probably will have to push to the next week. Excellent. Thank you. Okay. I figured that was easier than email to do that. Okay. Also, we did submit our build grant. Really exciting. Looking forward to those results. We're going to work hard for that. And then also, I think last night was neighborhood walk number 8 or 9. I'm not caught up on where we are. They have been going so well. We've had anywhere from 5 people to 30 people show up at the neighborhood walks.
Sometimes we had dinner.
Sometimes we were fed dinner.
Oh, you were. I missed that one.
But they have been going extremely well. I really appreciate being on foot in these neighborhoods. When we drive by, sometimes we miss things, and seeing them through the eyes of our residents has been absolutely incredible. So I'm looking forward to the 35 or 40 more that we have every Monday. Those are actually on our website. So if you're curious about when we're coming to your neighborhood, take a look at our website and you'll see these happen on Mondays at 6 p.m. They are rain or shine. So far, we haven't had the rain. We've gotten lucky. We do have ponchos. It's because we're carrying ponchos, that's why. So those have been going great. I actually did submit to Jim a little preliminary report based on the things that I learned and the photos that I've taken on these walks. So I'm looking forward to continuing that conversation about how we might work in some of the small, easy stuff to our work plans, and maybe eventually bringing some recommendations to the commission over time. Also, I wanted to say congratulations to GPED, Greater Paducah Economic Development, for hiring a new CEO and president, Bruce Wilcox. Our community was so excited when that announcement came out. I don't know if you all saw the positive feedback from our community about Bruce. He is from here. He is starting in September, I do believe, September 1st. So we're looking forward. 9th. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm sure he'll come and meet with us and get to know the commission as well. All right, with that, I think we'll move on. Unless anyone had anything that came to mind, we're going to move on to the audience comments. All right, so tonight, since we do have several people here to make comment, if you don't mind grabbing those, Commissioner Wilson, that just came up. We are going to limit to 3 minutes, and I am going to shut you off, okay, because it has to be fair. I want everyone to have a fair amount of time, and I want everyone to be respectful. So keep your comments down in the audience, because we're going to respect everyone tonight and what they have to say, all right? All right, we're going to get started. These are in no particular order, but we have Tara Bohannon. I think she just dropped this off. Of Calvert City. And we'll start your timer when you get up to the podium, okay? That podium, yep. And just adjust the mic so we can hear you.
Nothing like being uncomfortable at first. Okay. I heard that they wanted to move the Pride Festival indoors this year, which, as someone who loves many people in this room that I've seen, I have many family and friends that are gay, trans, other. How can you contain love? You can't put it in a box. You can't put it in a room. It's meant to be shared with your family, your friends, your community. It's meant to be spread for everybody. You can't contain it. When you feel love, you want to share it with everybody. You can't just hold it in your hand. You have to share it with everybody. And the more people that you come in contact with, that you let experience that, the more people feel that, and the more people see that, the more love they have to give to one another, the more people feel that. It's a contagious thing. It's the most beautiful thing. It's something that no other people can express in any way, form, or fashion. As much hate as there is in the world today, you've got to send love as a message. You've got to let everybody else feel this. You can't put it in a room and segregate it. You've got to let everybody else feel that. It's not something that you want to contain. It's something that you have to share. It's not something that you want to hold inside. That's all.
Thank you. All right, I meant to do this before we got started, so thanks, Tara, for being first. Appreciate you. We actually, the city manager and I were talking about the reason why everyone is here tonight, and just to offer some clarification on the front end before we get into comments, because it might affect what you're here to talk about. So do you mind doing that about the permitting process and about the event and where we are?
No, Madam Mayor, that'd be fine. Yeah, basically, we are still going on with the process. The permit's been filed to have the Pride Festival. It is will be a permitted event, and if the permit event organizer, if you will, abides by the ordinances, there's no issue with that. So the city has made no announcement, so I'm not sure where that's coming from.
I didn't expect that to happen.
They just still need to go through the permit process to completion. So, thank you.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on into comment. I think Benny Jenkins of Nashville, is that the name?
Thank you. My name is Benny. I am the frontman for the headlining band of the Pride Festival that will be taking place. We moved our recording session today in Nashville because we thought it was worth driving 2 hours here to be a part of this as it's happening. And we're really excited, so it's great to be here. But I wrote down some thoughts because Paducah is special to us. We go on national tours, headline festivals, travel all over the country, and but here we are, So here are my thoughts. Paducah is a wonderful city that has a special place in our heart as musicians and people. The community here is involved and supportive both of us and each other. We take the time, effort, and expense to add Paducah to our tour route for every national tour because whether we fully understand it ourselves or not, it is home in a few very special ways. Our band believes in Paducah's ability to accept and embrace us for who we are and what we represent. We believe in the power of community to cross barriers of prejudice and ignorance through friendship and art. The definition of community is a feeling of fellowship with others sharing common attitudes, interests, or goals. The Western Kentucky Pride Festival is going to create an amazing environment for companionship and understanding. With heavy community support that has already been generated, I can't imagine anything but a success in its endeavor to create an atmosphere of kindness and openness on the streets of this beautiful city. We have aligned with this event and organization because they contribute to a very powerful mission statement that we stand behind. It is our mission to impact the world by making more people less lonely. I wrote more, but it's irrelevant. The long story short is we really love Paducah, and we love being here. We play at Silent Brigade all the time. Those of you guys who go there, you probably know John, and you probably know Keith, because if you go there, you are family. And with everyone we've interacted with in Paducah, it has been that way. We meet and we are family. So this is our home, and we're really happy to play for you guys. It was never any doubt in my mind that the festival would be moved inside. I didn't think that's what really, honestly, the process to make that happen is such a long one anyways. Once, the city decides we're gonna have this event, that's what happens. It has this amazing event for people to find each other and create friendships and lasting impressions with people in their community that, honestly, in a town like Paducah, could last your lifetime, your family's lifetime. And I'm from a town of 150 people in southern Indiana. I have known those people forever. And this place reminds me of that. A little less corn, but thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Jennifer Edwards of Paducah.
Okay, I'd like to start by saying thank you. That makes us feel a lot better about our community leaders, that you're not trying to shove us off the streets and into back corners. There was a lot of talk about growth in this city earlier, and that was a huge point that I wanted to make, that I'd like to go on and make. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. The youth of this town do not hang around any longer than they have to. As soon as our children are old enough to get up and go, they're gone. I have a 17-year-old daughter right now, and as soon as she finishes college, she has no intention of staying in Paducah. She's headed to Bowling Green. I don't think that we're ever going to get this town to grow and be what we want it to be until we take steps to become more progressive, to show people that we're understanding and more tolerant, and that you don't have to be afraid to raise your children in this little community because they're going to be picked on because they're different. And I mean, I think it speaks greatly that this wasn't the issue that we thought it was going to be coming in tonight. But I just don't want those differences to be painted for people in a negative light, because honestly, I'd like to keep our kids here. I'd like to see Paducah grow up to be what it could be. I just don't see that happening if we don't come up in times a little bit. So that cuts me short because I had a lot more to say, but there's no need to say it now. So thank you all.
Thank you for being here. Next up, we have April Whipple of Paducah. Did you hear me? April Whipple of Paducah. You still here? Oh, hello.
Sorry for awkwardly going up the side of the room earlier. There's a lot of people. So I'm not good at public speaking at all, so excuse me for rambling. And I was trying to think of the best way to really articulate my thoughts. And really what it comes down to, and you said that it was something that you guys were discussing, not outright objectifying to. I think the issue was we had heard of public outcry, which if you take 5 minutes and look through the WPSD comment section, that seems to be the likely source. So I think really something to address, moving something inside, moving an event inside. This is the first that I have heard of anybody asking a public event to be moved inside locally. The quilters can come, be outside, do their thing, the barbecue, the farmer's market, etc., and which is good. Nobody wants those groups to go inside because we like them and they're part of our community. And really, what it would come down to is when you're asking someone to go inside or change their location, it's a pathway to exclusion. Really, I can't think of a better way to put that. And I don't see really a good reason for that. So if you could do the right thing. I'm sorry, I'm so bad at this. But yeah, that's exclusion versus inclusion. I think that's really the goal that we all know is the right one. So thank you.
Thank you, April. All right. David Tyndall of Paducah.
Make sure you can hear me this time. Okay, is this working?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of the things that everybody needs to be educated on is I'm doing the digital marketing for the festival. The reason most people are here is because there's been a section of the community that has actually threatened people on the page, threatened advertisers. Somebody sent a letter to one of the major advertisers for the event saying that we're going to make sure everybody boycotts your business. There's been a lot of negativity. And I liked how you started the meeting here with it being inclusive and wanting to allow everybody to come together, because that's one of the great things that successful cities that grow do, is they let everybody have a place and a purpose. And I would say that, first off, somebody asked me once, they said, why are you doing the digital marketing for the festival? You're not homosexual. And I said, because everybody deserves their own right to speak. And they all deserve their own right to have their community to come together. And that's something that I would encourage every people that have a different culture or different way of life. If you love the Bible and you're proud of it, have a religious festival. Please hire my business to do your digital marketing. All right? if you want to, if you're really into the Confederacy and you want to educate people, the best way to do it, instead of irritating people and being divisive, have a festival. As long as I get to shoot the cannon, I'll be happy to do this advertising for that too. And the whole message is that people don't understand is that, like, I just got certified through Facebook as a digital marketing agency through them. And they provide a ton of data on cities and demographics and things. And one of the things I found out is whenever you do a search web for keywords for Paducah, one of the key things is Paducah is a transient town. People look at it as a stop off going from St. Louis to Nashville and back and forth in Louisville. And I actually housed an e-commerce class down in Murray the last Tuesday of every month for free. One of my leading people down there has a factory down there in Murray with 140 employees where they pair shoes together, refurbish them, and sell them. And I'm like, why? Why are you here? And he said, geographic location. I can 2-day ship anywhere in the United States from right here. And my margins are in my shipping. So I would encourage everybody, if you don't like something, don't go. But don't be negative. And if you really want people to be part of your culture, have your own thing. Do it the next month. Set it up. And it's a lot of work. And I realize it's a lot more work to have your own thing and instead of trying to tear somebody down. But it's really, really worth it. If you want more people, be more inclusive and not negative. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Tom Simpson. Tom Simpson. I think of Paducah.
Good evening. I want to come here tonight to apologize to the city of Paducah because of the problems we face. Because of me and other men like me, we are facing an epidemic of drugs and sexual issues across the city like never before. I was a sex addict for 34 years. I wrapped my mind around illicit sexual desires. My mind was so wrapped up in trying to find my next affair that I couldn't speak into my family. I failed to validate my son or daughter's identity. 70% of men who sit in church and 30% of women are sex addicts, according to the study conducted by the Barna Research Group. Many are addicted to pornography. Pornography is like a drug. It affects people's minds like a drug. It takes more and more for an addicted person to get a fix. Once a young boy starts watching porn, which happens at about the age of 11, he starts on a slippery slope of sexual addiction. This slope might start off with watching heterosexual porn, but soon will turn to homosexual porn. This happened to my sons. I was so involved in my sexual sin, I did not speak into their life. This is a generational issue, too. My father was thrown out of the Marine Corps because he was married to 2 women, and my mother sexually abused my twin brother and me. This started the curse. Because I didn't validate my son according to God's word, he got his validation from a homosexual school counselor. Fathers like myself all around Paducah have failed in our duty to speak into our children's lives. We have walked around pretending to be men of God, but we've been men of sexual bondage. And this has allowed our children to grow up not knowing their real sexual identity, their real identity. This has also affected our wives, who many blame themselves for our sexual addiction. Many of our family members have turned to drugs to dull the pain of being a fatherless, even though there was a man in the house who was called Dad, but it was just in name only. Many have lost their sexual identity, which has caused them to go down the path of homosexuality. I have 2 sons that are homosexuals. All 3 of my sons have either abused drugs or struggling with their sexual identity. According to a study by the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association, homosexuals are more likely than heterosexuals to commit suicide and abuse drugs. It was only by God's grace and mercy that my marriage was saved. He provided a miracle. I can now say my marriage is better than it ever was because God healed and continues to heal it. I pray for my children to be healed of the hurt I've caused them for not speaking into their life like a father was supposed to. I ask the men of Paducah to repent and come clean of the epidemic of sexual addiction. Find a sexual purity group and attend. Start speaking into your children's life. validate who they are according to God's word and not the world's view.
Thank you,
Paducah men
Tom.
and women are
Tom.
searching for their true identity.
Tom, this
Do
is
not
going to be fair,
validated
Tom.
By Paducah men who are
Tom,
searching for their.
I'm going to have to shut you off, Tom. We
It's
have to
up
be
the
fair to
government. It's
everyone.
not up to the government to validate
Tom.
people's sinful behavior.
We have to be respectful to everyone, Tom. Thank you for being here. All right, next up we have Russell Hobbs of Paducah. Hi, Russell.
Good evening. Appreciate you allowing us to speak this evening. And I may get some of those boos or ahs, but I'm concerned in the direction that our city and county is going with the LGBT community. And the Bible says that blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and that's Psalms 33:12. And it also, Psalms 113, 105, it says, Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And so I think that we need to stop and think what we're doing to our community and to our churches and citizens of Paducah, because we need to keep those family values and Christian values. And I know y'all also agree with that we need to keep those. And it just seems like to me that we've just jumped in here all at once and jumped in there aboard, and everything else is just like left out. And or not everything, but I was taught to hate the sin and love the sinner. And I believe in that. We don't need to persecute people because they are like they are, but we don't have to join them necessarily either. So I'd like to ask your consideration as you're going into these walks and things, that maybe the people that voted you in didn't know that you would support this like you are, and maybe they won't vote for you the next time. But
Guys, please respect. We're going to be respectful tonight while he's talking.
But you know, our Savior, you know, he had love for sure, and in fact, he was called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And so, you know, I know Christ loves everybody and God loves everybody. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Excuse me. No, we're not doing that here. I'm going to ask you to leave. You don't have to leave, but if you do it again, I'm going to ask you to. This is a formal meeting, and we're going to respect each other. If you want to have a conversation, you can have it with him afterwards. Laura Petrie of Paducah.
Thank you. Lead with love. That's what the LGBT community is called upon to do. Lead with love. But we are not met with the same love from the broader community. Oftentimes we're met with hate, fear, disrespect, at worst, abuse, maiming, and murder. Is this the kind of town you're seeking? Homosexuals have been here forever. We're not going anywhere. You can kill all of us, but you're going to see a whole bunch more born. So it's a losing battle for y'all to keep trying to put us down. And I'm one of the lucky ones, right? I had support from my family, but not all members have that. To quote Billy Porter from The Star of Pose, sometimes our biological family is not equipped to love us unconditionally in ways that are necessary for us to thrive when we're LGBTQ people. But we found our tribe, we found our family, and our culture is about making sure we uplift each other, and it's amazing. Here in Paducah, we too have found our tribe, our chosen family. What unites us is discrimination, the micro and macro aggressions that all LGBTQ folks experience as we go through our daily lives. You don't know this reality, but it is a fact. The notion that Christians in this country have been persecuted is ridiculous. It's laughable. Try being a part of the LGBT community and see what that's like. Christians persecute queers, not the other way around. Let's get it straight. No pun intended. I was raised in the Christian faith, and what I'm seeing from many of today's Christians opposing the other is the opposite of what Christianity is supposed to represent. You cannot pray away the gay. It never works. Stop the discrimination against LGBTQ persons. Start to open your minds to the fact that LGBT
All right, Laura, sorry.
are here and will remain here.
Keisha Curry of Paducah.
Good evening. My name is Keisha Curry, and I am the founder of OurPaducah, which is a nonprofit organization to provide support and resources to our LGBT youth. I am a black heterosexual female. Glad you asked. I was born that way. So what's for me to say how other people can be born? I think our assistant city manager did it best. She set the foundation for everything because the video on OurPaducah strategic planning was excellent. It talked about diversity here in our very community. And then you had the four areas, if I'm not mistaken. It says our community, our growth, our engagement, and our culture. That's all of us. Not just one demographic, not just one race, not just one gender, not one sexual orientation, none of that. That is all of us. We are all a community. And all I can do is encourage each and every one of us to support each and every one of us. If we can just take time and get to know or educate ourselves about the queer community, you will find that they bleed just like we do, believe it or not. You will find that they love better than we do, believe it or not, because there's no judgment. And I've been with this community now since March, I think, and this has been the best community that's loving and accepting and encouraging and inspiring and supportive across the board. But we have those who are so against the love that this community has and shares for others. So we talked about God's law, God's commandments, and all the two greatest commandments was to love God and to love your neighbor. And that's all we ask you to do. You don't have to accept who they sleep with. You don't have to accept what gender they identify as, but do what the Word of God says. If you're going to talk about the Word of God, you have to talk about it in its entirety. And those 2 great commandments was talking about love. If you can accomplish those 2 great commandments, we wouldn't have to sit here and go back and forth about sexual minorities or gender minorities. We don't have to talk about that because we will all love and support each other. I want to encourage every one of you before my time is up. The way we can change this is to vote. Yes. Go out and vote when it's time to vote, and put people in place who are supportive of the LGBT community.
Thank you, Keisha. All right, next up we have Gil Arterburn of Paducah.
Good to see y'all. Y'all know this is something I'm passionate about a little bit, and Robert can tell you because he's heard me speak and teach, preach for a long time. Robert, if you saw my message to the commission last week, it's the same way I spoke when you were around. I haven't changed at all. I love God because I was a great sinner and he saved me from my sins. And so we all have a lot in common here. And the thing we have in common is that we have one Father, the God of heaven and earth, that created us all in his image. He created us, the Bible tells us, male and female. Jesus confirmed that from the beginning, this was the way it was. When he taught a gender studies class to his disciples, he said God created them male and female. And God's purpose for them is to marry one another, to be fruitful and to multiply. I've done a pretty good job of that with my family. I have 10 kids. I didn't get married till I was 30. So, because Richard can testify that I had a hard time growing up. But if I'd have got married a little younger, I probably could have had a big family. Anyway, the Bible teaches us that the God who created us sent his son Jesus to die for every one of us. It lists a whole laundry list of sins. Sodomy is one of those. Lust of every variety God opposes in every way. And he hates it with a passion. He hates it with a passion that sent his son Jesus Christ to the cross to pay for our sins. The wrath of God was poured out upon him for our sins. For homosexual sins, for heterosexual sins, for adultery, for sodomy, for rapists, for all these things. I hate to be talking about this in a city commission meeting, but Mayor, you all brought this up. And there's a great misunderstanding about this. Yes, love our neighbor. Yes, love God with all your heart and your soul. But the love of God is to hate sin. The fear of God is to hate sin. Jesus Christ hated sin and loved righteousness, and therefore God was pleased with him. And the Bible teaches us to do this. Let love, Paul said, be without hypocrisy. 1 Corinthians 13. Abhor what is evil. Cling to what is good. So I challenge every one of us, as I do, myself, to be someone who listens to the message of Jesus Christ and repents of all your sin.
Thank you, Gil.
And follows him.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Mary Byrne of Paducah.
I'm not going to be very funny. But I just wanted to say thanks for this not being an issue. I suppose you understand that when our community feels as though it's being attacked, we get motivated. And so there's a lot of people here. But the only other thing I wanted to say, and it's just because I'm right after that guy, is that we didn't even make it into the top 10 sins. Okay?
Hey, guys. Respect.
The
on all accord.
10 Commandments supposedly was the big 10, and adultery's in there, but we aren't, and that's all I want to say. But thank you very much for being Paducah.
Victoria Terra of Paducah.
Hello, everyone. In the 10 years that I've lived in Paducah, I've met many people that live here too. Here in Paducah, I know folks that have originated from Syria, China, Mexico, San Francisco, Germany, India, Saudi Arabia, Oklahoma, Arizona, New England, Chicago, England, Ireland, to just name a few of the places. And I've even met people that came from right here in Paducah. Here in Paducah, I know men and women that are in biracial, interfaith, same faith, heterosexual, same-sex marriages and partnerships. Here in Paducah, I know women and children that are Muslim, Baha'i, Hindu, Jewish, atheist, Christians, pagan, humanists, and just plain spiritual. Here in Paducah, I know men, women, and children that are transgender, heterosexual, lesbian, queer, homosexual, binary, and in the process of trying to figure it out. What do we all have in common? We are all citizens of this city. We all pay taxes so that everyone in our community has access to an education, so that we have roads to drive on, we have a public library, a flood wall that protects us, a fire department, a police department, etc. We, as individuals, choose to participate in our community in some way. We choose to have a business here. We choose to spend money here. We choose to volunteer here. We choose to support churches, nonprofits, the arts, sport leagues. The list is really long and varied. Let's think of Paducah as this really big table that we all get to sit at and share Paducah's offerings. And I have 2 pages of everything that's going on this weekend. I choose to participate in 1 or 2 of them. Of all the things that I found in Paducah, I'm choosing those 2 things. So if you don't want to attend, just don't attend. And go and do something that brings you joy. We all belong at the table, and we all deserve a piece of the wonderful pie that Paducah is offering.
Pastor Robert Courtney of First Family Church in Paducah.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Yes.
Well, this second time I've been in the commission meeting, and Gil has looked at me as the poster child for evangelical Christianity and how loving they were. And I have some great memories from the church, but I also have one of him telling me, if you continue during being a gay person, you're going to end up an empty shell. And I can't imagine as a pastor standing here giving that sort of advice to somebody. Jesus talked a lot about word and deed. We say things and our actions follow that up. I started First Family on Easter Sunday, and we have an LGBT outreach. We welcome everybody, every color. Some of my parishioners are right here. We have every flavor, don't we, guys? Baptist, Catholic, whatever, wondering, atheist, whatever. But what catapulted me to do this more than anything, guys, was a few years ago, my best friend died, a gay man named Chris Lamb. And one of the major pastors in this town wouldn't answer the phone to preach his funeral. That is pathetic. That a so-called man or woman of God couldn't muster up a few words to say about my friend. And so they called me from the funeral home, and First Family Church was born, really. And it's just been a matter of time. But I want you to know, if you're here, Jesus loves you just like you are. The only repair you need is from bigotry and judgmentalism and being discriminated against. And I'm proud of my city commission. Thank you guys for standing up for justice for all. Let freedom ring.
All right, Dustin Havens of Paducah.
Okay. So first and foremost, I want to thank you guys for letting us be here today. And I want to thank you for the support that we have received from most of you, and that I humbly respect you guys. And I'm sorry that if anything that Western Kentucky Pride said came back that we were implying that the city was not on our side. I do want to clarify that the city of Paducah is one of the few cities with a national pride where the city isn't actually involved in the Pride Festival on a business level. We are doing this all ourselves. And like the city manager said, we're working to get the permit done. There is some confusion there, which I would like to share with the city manager and Mayor Harless. Until today, when one of our sponsors reached out to the city clerk's office, we were under the impression in this email that we had done everything required for our permit. And then somebody from my committee had reached out to Mark at Parks and Rec, so we found out apparently that wasn't true. However, that's neither here nor there. That's business, and we will work that out. I just want to say, founding of Western Kentucky Pride has been a monumental experience. We have received so much love and so much outpouring for our community, for most everyone in this room. The businesses, the personal, it's been amazing because Paducah's full of love. Paducah is a wonderful city, and we can make it better. We can stand together. This festival isn't a sordid affair like it's being said on social media. I have board members that are receiving death threats, but we're not reporting them because we're taking the high road. We are taking the high road. And that's fine because we know we will be protected because the city of Paducah has people that are paid to protect us, and we're paying people to protect us. So I just want to say thank you to everyone in this room for all the support you've given us. And I just want to say, we're following everything we can to get this off the ground so that we can practice our First Amendment right of freedom of peaceful assembly. And we hope to see you all August 24th and 25th. And if you don't, there's plenty of other events, like was mentioned. And come September, we hope to see you all at the Paducah LGBT Welcome Center. That's all I have.
We are going to go into an executive session, and Commissioner McElroy has that motion.
I move that the board go into closed session for discussion of matters pertaining to the following topics: proposed or pending litigation as permitted by KRS 61.8101C.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner McElroy?
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Harless?
Aye. And we will come back to adjourn. You guys probably don't want to wait for that. So have a good evening.